Hey guys, and welcome to another Doctor Who review, but this time it's not Doctor Who. No, it's Dr. Omega and his parallel adventures. Now, you're probably all thinking, what the hell is Dr. Omega? Well, Dr. Omega was a story written by French novelist Arnaud Galopin in 1906. And it's a story about a scientist who has a spaceship, which is like a rocket, called Cosmos. But in these new audio adventures, the parallel adventures, he has a spaceship called the Omega Tuner, or the Tuner. And it allows him to travel through space and time. It seems to be bigger on the inside, and when it materialises, it can change its form to fit in with its surroundings. And it sounds suspiciously similar to Doctor Who. To the point where, when a version of the book was published in the 1940s, the illustrations of Dr. Omega looked very reminiscent of the First Doctor. So that has led many to believe that perhaps Dr. Omega was the inspiration for Sidney Newman's Doctor Who. So this is a brand new audio story that takes place after the events of the original Dr. Omega book, and it's written by Doctor Who novelist John Peel, and it's being distributed in Europe by Who Dares Publishing, who very kindly sent me this copy of the CD to review. From the off, the cover art's really nice. You've got Dr. Omega, who looks kind of like William Hartnell, you know, the hair's very similar. He's wearing Victorian Edwardian clothing. And then on the back, the blurb just tells us a little bit about the character and what this is really all about, because a lot of people are going to be going into this thinking, Dr. Omega, sounds a bit like Doctor Who. Another strange little quirky thing about this is that the audiobook was created to raise funds for the Giant Tortoise Restoration Initiative of the Galapagos Conservancy, but it also comes with this small mini-comic. So inside we have the first part in a completely separate story, nothing to do with the CD at all. So what about the actual story itself? Well, obviously one of the first things you're gonna be immediately thinking as soon as you go into listening to this story is, how similar is it going to be to Doctor Who? And it is strikingly similar to Doctor Who. And the reason for that is, obviously, it's a bit of tit for tat, in as much as it is aware that the inspiration of Doctor Who is Dr. Omega, but at the same time, it is incredibly aware that it is trying to be like Doctor Who. Even to begin with, the theme tune, you know, you haven't got a diddly-dum, but you've got a steady beat, and you've also got the Derbyshire white noise hiss that comes in and out. Now, the actor who reads the story, John Galore, he plays both parts. He plays Burrell, the companion, and Dr. Omega. And the interesting thing about this actor is he was actually the actor who did the voice of the First Doctor in The Day of the Doctor, when the Doctors all come together upon Gallifrey, and you hear the First Doctor say, "Calling the Time Lords of Gallifrey, this is the Doctor," which makes it all the more interesting when you think he plays Dr. Omega very much like the First Doctor. He sounds like a mixture of William Hartnell and Geoffrey Bolden. Very good. He does an incredibly good job of playing a Hartnell-style Doctor. He's introduced as Dr. Omega, but for the rest of the story, he is referred to as the Doctor. And so when Burrell, his companion, sort of says, "Oh, Doctor, the Doctor this, the Doctor that," you sort of end up thinking, oh god, yeah, this isn't Doctor Who. It's quite funny, it's quite weird, it takes a little while to get used to this isn't actually the Doctor, but of course everything, like I said, is strikingly similar. But also the way that the character is written is very reminiscent of the First Doctor, in as much as he's very much the scientist. One of the first things he does is he takes out scientific equipment and he starts doing an experiment to try and ascertain where they are and why this world is the way that it is. And he also shares that very curious nature that gets everyone into trouble, very much like the Doctor does in the Daleks. You know, he doesn't want to leave without seeing that city. So the story itself takes place on the Silent Planet. And when they arrive on this planet, the world is dead. There is no sign of life, there's no sign of anything. It is a completely barren and desolate world. And that in itself paints two very similar pictures. The first one is to An Unearthly Child, when the TARDIS first materialises on that desert plain, and it looks like there is no life here. The other one is, which was the one that first came to mind, was The Dead Planet, aka Skaro, the very first Dalek serial, that you have this world which has been completely destroyed by war. And then of course we get to the monsters of this story, which are these warring robots. So you have two types. You have some that are on tracks, and you have some that have legs, and these massive huge robots that have created these great big holes in the ground. There's no dialogue from these robots. There is nothing. The whole story is just the companion and Dr. Omega. There's nothing beyond that. There are no other characters, which is a shame, because it is literally 20 minutes of, we sort of wander around, we see that there are these robots, they have a bit of a fight, and we get in the I nearly said the TARDIS, we get in the tuner, and we disappear. And it's a shame, because you see the mini comic that comes with the CD, and at the end it shows that there are these other creatures which look like big turtles, because it's the Galapagos planet, and you sort of think, oh, that would have been a good story, because it's got proper aliens in it. Obviously this story, being the first one, is just very much trying to set up the feel and the tone, and just introduce the characters to people who have probably A, never heard of Dr. Omega, and B, have probably never read the book. In terms of performance, excellent. I cannot find a fault with the actor playing the parts. He does a very good job, particularly of Hartnell. He does a very, very good first Doctor, even though he's not the first Doctor. He does an incredibly good job. The sound design is also very nice, very well done. With the robots, they have all the mechanical whirrings with the turrets that move and the guns that move. It all sounds really great. Some of the laser noises sounds a bit stock sci-fi sounds, which sort of deters a bit, and you sort of like, oh yeah, that's probably from some sound library. Although it's a basic story, for something that is like 21 minutes, you can't really grumble. You can't really expect more. You can't expect a huge drama to be condensed into such a short time. But from listening to it, you do get the sense that, this is very much testing the waters, and that, if it does well, perhaps they will expand it to include maybe more actors, a bit more like Companion Chronicles, how they have, Peter Purves reading all the parts, or, Fraser Hines reading all the parts, and then one extra guest actor. I think something like that would be quite nice for this. But I can understand why this first story is only very basic and very simple, just to introduce these new figures. It's good fun for a short 20-minute audio play, something nice to listen to if you're on the bus going to school or going to work, like I did. I think really at the end of it, if you're a fan of 60s Doctor Who, and if you're a fan of the first Doctor, then I would give it a go. So you can order this CD from Who Dares Publishing. It's only $5.99. It's a nice price for a short play, nicely packaged. You get the first mini comic as well. So you get, a full audio story, and you get a bit of something else as well. And yeah, for someone who came into this, listening to this CD, had only sort of vaguely heard of Dr. Omega in the past. I'd seen some of these covers for the books where they've used the sort of Chris Achilles Doctor Who and the Daleks target cover, and they've just changed it ever so slightly. This was interesting to have a look at a new version of a character that predates Doctor Who by 60 years. Definitely one to look out for, like I said, if you're a fan of 60s Doctor Who, because it very much follows the same sort of style of those early William Hartnell stories, like the Daleks. It's very reminiscent of that. From the Dead Planet to the Silent Planet, it is incredibly similar. So yeah, definitely take a look. And once again, thank you to Who Dares Publishing for sending this to me to have a little listen. It was really good fun. And thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you again very soon. Bye bye!